Think Tech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Donna Blanchard.
And I'm Ali Yamashita.
In our show this time, we'll attend the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum's Clean Energy Day program and get a handle on what's going on, or not, in clean energy. It was called Clean Energy Day 2014, Getting Our Act Together.
It was an all-day major policy program on clean energy in Hawaii.
The program was presented at the Women's Downtown YWCA Lani Akea.
Keynote Jim Lazar has been an economist and a consultant in electric and natural gas utility rate making and resource planning since 1982. His remarks were entitled, Hawaii's Opportunity. Failure is not an option.
Hawaii is extremely dependent on petroleum. The whole state energy consumption, more than 3/4, comes from petroleum. High oil prices mean high costs for electricity, for transportation, and for most everything we use. Yes, even our solar panels are delivered to us using, motor vehicles. Solar works great in the middle of the day, but is predictably not available in the late afternoon when utilities experience some of their highest loads. We can address this. We can install controls on our water heaters so they heat water when the wind is blowing and the sun is shining. We can add storage to our air conditioners so they can keep us cool when we need to be cool, but make that cold when the power is cheap. We'll need to install voltage regulators on our distribution grid to allow higher levels of distributed solar to work. We can synchronize our water system pumps to our electricity supply better so that we use mostly wind and solar power to pump our water. And we can curtail pumps for a few minutes here and there to balance short-term variations on the grid.
To get current on what's going on, we then had updates on development in clean energy from more than a dozen well-informed members of the clean energy community.
I'm going to start things off with a very quick review of some charts that are up on the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum's Clean Energy Metrics website.
I do want to cover just a couple things that the legislature accomplished this year and a couple things that didn't pass, and kind of get into a little bit about where that direction is coming from and where we're going.
Consistent with Jim Lazar's wise counsel about paddling in the same direction, I'd like to briefly outline Hawaii's energy vision.
The first is the Kahe Solar Project. That's a 15 megawatt solar PV project that HECO is planning for the Kahe Power Station.
So last year was a good year. We had several challenges, and anybody know what the number that we made last year?
Mayor Carvalho has stood up and said, hey, we're gonna reduce our energy by 30%, not by 2030 for the county operations, but by 2023.
Maui, we've really gotten into a solar rooftop project, which now includes about 18 public facilities.
We're at about 50%. I guess Jay will speak later, and he'll tell you how that happened. And we got to thank Hawaii Electric Light for doing that.
A lot of the projects that the city and county are pursuing right now are dealing on the transportation side.
We gave away 3 LEDs to everyone who came to the meeting. Now we got 300 people that came this year and only 150 came last year.
We need all forms of energy as Hawaii makes this transition to a clean energy economy.
Yesterday, actually I think it probably happened over the weekend, but we got announced a new $9 million award from Navy for wave energy testing off the Marine Corps Base Hawaii.
So what's really happening? On the DG side, I guess the best way to say it is things are under evaluation.
We're looking for innovation that can make our system more efficient, more capital efficient, and more cost effective.
These updates were followed by a panel on the future of renewables in Hawaii. It was called Keeping the Lights On. This panel featured Jim Lazar, Rick Rocheleau, and Mark Duda.
We can't let these competing ideas tear us apart. Big wind, geothermal, biofuels, and conventional power plants are a decentralized future. We can work together and find the best path forward in the public interest. I need to finish off by talking a little bit about HECO's future. The current utility business framework may fail if it cannot adapt. Market Street Railway is one of the most important cases in regulatory history. The company was losing money as bus and automobile competition grew. They asked for a rate increase, and the PUC turned them down. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that a public service company with a failing business model does not have a right to charge whatever it takes to keep running. Now, Market Street still has transit service, but from a different provider.
When we think about framing the problem and therefore also the solution, there's some sort of endogeneity problem where we think about these issues from inside the, a world that's roughly the electric power regulatory perspective. And I think that's limiting. It's particularly limiting when you have kind of those things embedded in broader social change, and it's particularly limiting in Hawaii where you have to factor in other stuff like the benefit of liberating yourself from dependence on anything from outside in a context where you're this isolated. And so all else equal, this is going to make you want to value reducing your reliance on things from outside, more so than a place on the mainland, this kind of thing. And it doesn't really get factored into, what's the cost of such and such resource on the grid. Also, I think we could give much more scope to the sort of embedded financial options in the different energy mixes and energy resources, and there's value that I think doesn't get factored in.
We went into Clean Energy Initiative, we set goals on renewable, on efficiency. We're moving down that path. The problem is technology is coming along. Things are happening kind of independent of the plan. Sometimes they go along with the plan, sometimes they're separate. And I don't think our ability to think through where it's taking us and what the implications are keeping up with the changes. And I think that's getting to be a real issue. And people are finding solutions as we go, but I think we're getting to the point now where we're really getting to be at a really critical crossroad of that. And it comes down to understanding what the implications of future actions are going to be.
At lunch, we heard remarks from J. Ignacio, president of Hawaii Electric Light Company on the Big Island, and from Alan Arakawa, mayor of Maui County.
We need to change our mix of generation. That's one of the key strategies. Current use is fossil fuel, centralized generation, not as flexible as we need to be, and the grid moves one way. In the future, and you heard about it already, a lot of the discussions today, distributed generation. That's something very different for the utility, and the utility is going to have to make adjustments, going to have to make changes to accommodate that. Going forward, we're looking for renewables that can actually drive the cost down and still manage the power system. But from a utility person going through that and taking this obligation, this duty to serve, that's part of our culture that's maybe a little bit difficult for us to let go of, because we're always going to have that duty, that obligation to serve. Going into the future, we're going to have to change things out. We're not going to be able to remain with this grid the way it is. It's going to have to change.
I think that the time has come for us to have some real serious discussions as to what the real goals are and what we have to be able to accomplish working in this field of energy. I mentioned a little bit earlier that we need to work to 100% alternative energy. And there are some tweets back to my office already asking, what are you talking about? Well, let's look at things very realistically. Photovoltaic, is a technology new? No. Wind generation, is a technology new? No. Almost every form of energy that we're looking at right now, the technology isn't new. It's old technology. It's a question of how we're going to be able to integrate that technology and how we're going to be able to find a way to balance the cost. And cost is a big word here. How we're going to be able to balance the economics and the cost of being able to work the systems. Do we have to have just one electric company?
After lunch, we had 4 panel discussions about what has happened and not happened in clean energy.
The first of these panels dealt with energy in transportation. This panel featured Elizabeth Fischer, Jadine Urasaki, and JoAnn Yukimura.
Mind the gap is a transportation term for transit. For that space, which we'll find out in a couple years, between the boarding platform and the rail car. It's used pretty much around the world, so that's where this comes from. What are those spaces that we need to fill? What do we need to watch out for? So that's what comes to mind in this presentation. Well, we've got some good bases, legislative, policy stuff from the federal all the way down to the local level. I'm not going to read this. These slides, I believe, will be available after this workshop is done. So that's when you can go take a look, read up, and by the way, pick up on the web links that are on most of these slides so you can go get the actual resources and source documents where a lot of the reports and information comes from.
Our Hawaii statewide transportation policy or plan was done back in 2011, and this document sets the goals and objectives that guides all of our 3 divisions within the Department of Transportation, our airports, our harbors, and our highways, in terms of, you know, how we do our plans and our master plans for each of the modes. Of the 8 Hawaii statewide transportation planning goals, the goals relating to energy states that the support of the state energy goal of 70% clean energy, which includes 40% produced by renewable energy and 30% from increased energy efficiency, enhancing the reliability and security of energy sources. Associated with these goals are the 5 objectives, and similarly, you can go ahead and read this later, but these objectives, again, help facilitate our master plans for each of the 3 divisions.
And the focus of this panel is how to reduce Hawaii's annual land transportation consumption of 500 million gallons per year of liquid fuels, mostly fossil fuels. In this kind of situation, we're a very unresilient community and state. If fossil fuels stop tomorrow, we'll be in a disaster. So the Hawaii Clean Energy Goal is a 25% reduction in liquid fuels, fossil fuels usage by 2035, which means 235 million gallons per year reduction. And the first year was 2013, projected was a 2.9% reduction. Does anybody know how we did last year?
The second panel was called Getting the Utilities Act Together. This panel featured Hermina Morita, Warren Bollmeier, Viola, and Mike Yamane.
3 months ago, the Commission issued 4 orders providing major policy, resource planning, and operational directives to the Hawaiian electric companies. These orders provide strategic guidance the HECO companies must take to modernize the electricity system, embrace cost-effective clean energy opportunities to stabilize and lower customer bills, improve interconnection of customer-sided PV, and expand choices for customers to manage their energy use.
Chair Morita listed some of the deliverables we have. We filed 5 of them already, but I think the more significant ones are coming next week and in August. It's a lot of work. I think what it does is call on us to take a comprehensive, essentially 360-degree review of our business and operations and really question how we're doing things and how we, what's working right, what's not working, what do we need to do to change to move into the future. It's all basically an all-hands-on-deck approach, full executive engagement. Literally every week, every Friday or Monday, our executive group gets together to review status on where we're at, discuss the issues and discuss where we're going. We're moving fast, but we do see alignment with the general principles stated by the Commission.
I'm going to talk about enabling technologies from a utility standpoint, basically giving members more payment options, giving them a better idea of their applications, where it stands, outage notifications, and how we're going to get there. And also with this technology, there's going to be a lot of things going on internally as far as improving internal efficiencies within our own processes utilizing these technologies. So first of all, I want to start by, as you know, we completed a rollout of 30,000 smart meters. And basically now we can turn on and turn off people's power when we want to. We can read without sending meter readers. And that's just the core functions of this AMI. The AMI is basically, it's like the iPhone. You can call, you can receive calls, and you can text. What we're looking at the next step is all the apps that go along with iPhone.
What is the utility of the future? And I'm still working on that, but I had to start with the fact that traditionally electricity has been a commodity. Now is electricity becoming a service? I think it is. And that's just that traditional electricity just may be one of several services that consumers might want, and that kind of leads us into a whole new paradigm.
The third panel was called What Must Happen. This panel featured Kyle Datta, Mark Glick, Jeff Mikulina, and Alicia Moy.
Jim started out this discussion saying, failure is not an option. Well, inaction is not an option either.
It's really exciting to talk about kind of the stepchild of the Clean Energy Initiative, which is transportation. We've actually been working on it for a long time, and many of you may know that Hawaii actually leads the nation in the number of fueling facilities, EV fueling facilities per capita, and certainly in the rate of adoption of EVs. So in that sector, we've done a lot, and we do have some really great hydrogen test programs. But today I'm going to talk about the role of the transportation sector, more about where we need to head.
One of our past mistakes was thinking too small. So let's go back to 2008 when the energy agreement was signed. And back then, the utility anticipated for net energy metered photovoltaic systems 23 megawatts of this rooftop PV. Well, at the end of 2013, we didn't get 23 megawatts. We actually had 167 megawatts of net metered photovoltaic on Oahu, essentially off by a factor of 7, 2 years ahead of schedule. Niels Bohr once said, predictions are difficult to make, particularly about the future. And I think there's an important lesson here as we look at our clean energy future and what must happen in order to achieve it. So today the utility is looking for energy storage, which is excellent. They're looking at between 60 and 200 megawatts of storage for the grid. What, again, if we're off by a factor of 7, what if the market actually supports 7 times that much storage on the grid, be it from utility scale or homes or vehicles or something we haven't anticipated yet?
If implemented correctly, LNG can be an enabler to allow achievement of Hawaii's clean energy future. LNG can significantly lower the cost of energy by 30 to 50%. LNG will diversify the state's energy portfolio, enhancing reliability and energy security. LNG can help industries meet stricter emissions requirements. LNG can enable the integration of renewable energy by allowing installation of high-efficiency, load-following gas turbines to complement the intermittency of wind and solar energy. LNG, given its low cost, can also optimize electric system efficiency through greater use of demand response.
And so we're going to need all of your support, once again, to the legislature. And frankly, if the legislature won't give it, we may have to think about providing it collectively ourselves. Because you cannot make these decisions without the capability in the institutions. And you want, as a regulated community and customers, strong institutions.
We closed with a view from the legislature. As in previous years, closing remarks were delivered by Senator Mike Gabbard, chair of the Senate Energy Committee.
And the big question that's looming is former U.S. DOE Secretary and Nobel Prize winner Stephen Chu's recent statement true that we're nowhere near the problem threshold in terms of DG penetration? Or is HECO right in telling us that we need to slow it down in the interest of grid reliability? Or is this just a question of technical know-how? Okay, aloha,
All in all, it was a great program, thoughtful, useful, and well attended. It was also well appreciated, and everyone felt the discussion had covered valuable ground.
In a transformational initiative like clean energy, one that will span a number of political, economic, and technological cycles, it's really critical that we stay current and stay together. That's why the Energy Policy Forum's Clean Energy Day is so important to all of us. And now, let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech broadcasts video and audio for all of our talk shows live on the internet from 1 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon. If you've missed a show or want to replay or share any show, they're all archived on YouTube.
Visit thinktechhawaii.com for a live stream and YouTube links, and to join our email list and get these links and advisories on our upcoming shows.
We also invite you to be a part of our live audience at our downtown studio at Pioneer Plaza. Contact Jay at thinktechhawaii.com. Raise your awareness in every way on ThinkTech.
On Thursday, August 7th, ThinkTech will host a luncheon program featuring remarks by our new UH president, David Lassner, on his vision for the university. This program will also be at Laniakea. You can sign up to attend at thinktechhawaii.com.
And now, here's this week's ThinkTech commentary.
I'm Donna Blanchard, and this is a ThinkTech commentary. I'd like to talk about ethics. Merriam-Webster defines ethics as rules of behavior based on ideas about what is morally good and bad. Rules based on ideas. Who gets to decide those ideas and rules? Well, when I was a kid, I remember learning in Sunday school that God's 10 commandments were written on the hearts of man. I also had some knowledge of God's penmanship via the Cecil B. DeMille film, The 10 Commandments. And as a kid, I really wondered if I had internal lightning scarring that would get agitated if I hit my sister Michelle. Of course, as I matured, I learned that I had learned those 10 Commandments so well that lightning in the form of guilt would seize me whenever I disregarded them. And I wondered if that was what Charlton Heston was talking about. But now I understand the meaning behind the dogma of written on the hearts of man. Deep down, we know darn well and good when we are doing something wrong. None of those 10 Commandments actually address the concept that I shouldn't have hit my sister Michelle, even when she deserved it. But I knew it was wrong. The same way I know that I shouldn't lie, gossip, or take the last piece of pizza until everyone has gotten some. We know right and wrong, and we know how we should behave, what behavior we should and shouldn't encourage in others, and how we should teach our children to behave. We know it. Okay, so why bother with definitions of right and wrong? Once we're past the age of getting grounded or expelled from school and are flying under the radar of punitive authorities, who cares about someone else's definition of right and wrong? Hurting others, withholding truth, stealing, hating, gossiping, etc., doesn't just hurt the person on the direct receiving end of those actions. It hurts the perpetrator, and it hurts humanity as we drive separating wedges into the fabric of our community. We are not separate. Hurting another person hurts you and those you love. So, why would we engage in conduct that we know is wrong and harmful? Well, usually because there's some form of more immediate gratification awaiting us behind those unsavory deeds. And remember that immediate gratification can be in the form of cushions like easier and less uncomfortable. Even when you ask for it, you may not like it if I tell you my honest opinion about how you look in that purple spandex halter dress and orangish red lipstick. But rather than take the time and effort and risk of explaining why I don't believe it suits you, or anyone other than waifish runway models with good lighting and background music, I'll just say, it's good. That sort of immediate gratification extends all the way to justification for all sorts of heinous crimes. All of them, as a matter of fact, are somehow justified by the perpetrator. Okay, I'm about done here. And really, I'm not trying to preach or even make you believe that I haven't looked a friend wearing orangish red lipstick straight in the eye and told her it looked good. Because we were walking out the door late and I didn't want to tell her to wipe it off and start all over again. It was easier to just risk being struck by lightning. But today, I'm reminding myself that regardless of our dogma of choice, they all pretty much agree that we know what is good and genuine and fair. We know, I know. Here. That's all. I'm Donna Blanchard, and this has been a Think Tech Commentary.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of Think Tech, but first we want to thank our underwriters.
Okay, Ollie, that wraps up this week's edition of Think Tech. Remember, you can watch Think Tech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like J. Fidel does. For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
Definitely, Donna. For lots more Think Tech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on Think Tech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Yes, be a guest or a volunteer, a producer or intern, and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Donna Blanchard. Thanks so much for joining us on Think Tech and for supporting tech, energy, diversification, and globalism in Hawaii. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. Aloha, everyone.
And I'm Ali Yamashita. See you next time.